Salute, BookTube. Well, it's finally here. Finally, part five, the last part of this mega, over the top autumnal book haul in which I bought too many books. Again, this isn't cloud chasing or clickbait or anything like that. I know a lot of booktubers do that. If it was clickbait, I would have put all the books in one video and made it last for like 2 hours or 3 hours. And I think the combined five parts of this booktube or this book haul must like exceed 4 hours. So I apologize again for that. Um, for those of you who are watching, thank you so much. But I promise you, the torture is almost over. We're almost. It's. I think I can end. We'll end here with this last part five of the book haul. Again, not cloud chasing, not clickbaiting, not doing any of that. As I mentioned in the previous four parts of this book haul, uh, there's not that many bookshops where I'm at. Not a lot of English used bookshops where I'm at. So I try to patronize them, and even if I can pass on a book, I usually don't because again, I want to support these independent bookshops. Likewise, the library system here is mostly tilted. Here is United Arab Emirates in the heart of the Middle East, and the library books are tilted more to Arabic books, which wouldn't be helpful to my English BookTube community or subscriber viewers. So um, that's the main reason I do it. And then the other thing I want to mention just before I show you the books is again these I try to theme these parts of the book haul. So if you remember way back when, I think this is like last week, book haul part one was I don't even remember. It was books inspired by booktubers, booktube commenters, friends on booktube, watching other booktube videos. That was number one. Although all my book buying now is and has always been, even before I started this channel, has been inspired by booktube. Uh, but that was part one. Part two was a history book haul that focused on American history books and Arabian, Middle Eastern history books. Part three was what I called classics, classic Western literature. So a lot of 19th century Victorian stuff, some ancient Homer, all that kind of stuff. That was part three book haul. All of these you can watch in the back catalog. Part four was I returned to history, but this time it was more European, British and European history, as well as some Far Eastern history books, biographies. Far East means things like China, Southeast Asia, India, that kind of stuff. And now it's part five. Finally, the conclusion. And part five is I'm gonna call it miscellaneous. It's just whatever I couldn't fit in all the other previous parts. These are the miscellaneous books. So yeah, we'll let's get into them. So that this video doesn't also go on very long. Um, if you saw part one, I think the first book I showed in this mega haul in part one was one of these Oxford very short introduction books. The one I hauled in the first one was a very short introduction of science fiction because I'm thinking, again, I'm mostly a history and nonfiction reader. Today, there's a mix of fiction and nonfiction. Again, it's more nonfiction, but anyway, the first part one of this book haul, I showed the Oxford very short introduction to science fiction, with the hope that I would read science fiction going forward, try some new frontiers. But right next to the very short introduction to science fiction, I found this short introduction to ancient warfare. Again, these Oxford very short. They are short, small books. They can fit in your pocket. This one's by Harry Sidebottom. Yeah. So I sort of happy to find this because it says ancient warfare. I think it should be Western ancient warfare. That means ancient Greece and ancient Rome. There's not too much here, unfortunately. From just looking at the Just glancing through the book and looking at the table of contents, very little about ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia or the Persians. I mean, I'm sure the Persians are in here, but it's again, I think most of the sources are Greek and Roman, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that's very Western. And again, for non-Western people, Greece and Rome is important because they penetrated the Middle East. The Greeks, especially under Alexander, and after Alexander, were very heavily involved in the region, and then the Romans as well. Um, but again, it's very short, so you don't expect too much. There's probably a very short introduction to ancient Egypt, etc. Maybe that's where I'll find more details. But sticking to the ancient Middle East, I got two books, and these are they're both in really bad condition. But I said maybe it has one more read in it, and I should take them. This is ancient Middle East historical fiction. The first one, and it's about a specific place, which is very controversial and in the news a lot these days. The first one is by Leon Uris, and it's called Exodus. And again, it's a really old copy, paperback. It's falling apart. I found this in the discount bin, but I said I'll take it because the subtitle here is The Novel Which Has Swept the World. Okay, but it's I'll read the back. It says, The courageous story of the rebirth of a nation. For Ari, the Israeli freedom fighter, his life's goal. For Kitty, the beautiful American nurse, a chance to find herself again. For Mark, the famous international reporter, another exciting story. A miracle few could resist, the most dramatic event of the 20th century. This is the novel which has... the word is faded because it's so old. That has swept the world. That has swept the world. The glorious, heartbreaking story of the birth of a new nation, and that new nation is the Zionist entity Israel. So, again, a play on the Exodus of Moses and the Bible. But I think Leon Uris, I think, is an Israeli author. I'm not sure. I don't have much back info, but it's copyright 1959. This is a 1974 edition, but the original is copyright 1958. So written early in Israel's history. The second one is related, similar historical fiction, a similar subject matter. This is Missioner, James A. Missioner. This is called The Source. Also very battered, very old copy. When's this one from? Oh wow, this has like, it even has figurines. Like art. So, I mean, historical fiction, but when is this from? Because this looks really old, and the paper, even the paper is... Okay, original copyright 1965, and this version is from 1975. So again, these are from the 70s. That's 50 years. These books are 50 years old, so, and they're paperbacks. So I don't know if maybe I can get one more read out of them before they fall apart. But again, let's read this one. The Source is at once a novel and a historical chronicle. Its heroes are Canaanites, Crusaders, Roman emperors, Arabs, and today's Israelis. Through the pages, embracing all the dramatic episodes from the annals of Israel, excuse me, thunder the stories of tribal warfare, revolutions, persecution, crusade, murder, rape, and fire worship. And into this vast canvas, James A. Missioner weaves a constant thread, the story of man's spiritual pilgrimage amidst oppression and suffering. Oppression and suffering, it says here. It says tribal warfare, persecution, crusade, murder, rape. Well, I mean, if you want to call it Palestine, the rape and the suffering and the oppression that's happening now under a religious Zionist entity supported by evangelical Christendom. But the Christians themselves also did a lot of, what was the words? Oppression and suffering and persecution, murder and rape. The Crusades, in the 11th century. It was also fundamentalist Catholic Christians coming into the Holy Land, taking it over and doing all those stuff. So let's see if Missioner talks about that, or does Missioner take? Excuse me. Just get a bit comfortable here. Does Missioner take a does he take a neutral stance? We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. Next book. Okay, we're going. This is very random. Again, this was in the discount bin, so I said I'll take it. There's a channel, Andrew. Oh, I'm gonna not get his channel name correctly. I think it's called Books. Andrew. Anyway, he's an Australian. I'll link his channel below because it's unfair of me not to have forgotten his name. I should have checked before, but he's an Australian booktuber, and he just very recently posted a book haul himself. It's not as long as mine, but his book haul he focuses on a lot of Australian biographies of Australian prime ministers. And Australia is a country that I know very little about, especially the prime ministers. But just watching his channel has got me a little bit interested. I got this before I was watching his channel, but this book reminds me of him because his channel, there's a lot of books about Australia on his channel. If you're interested in Australia, you should check him out. This book is by Donald Horne, and it's called The Lucky Country. And the subtitle is The Classic Study of Australia in the 60s. So I've been to Australia. I've been to one city. I had a friend who had a wedding all the way in Melbourne in Australia. So I went there for the wedding. But Australia is so large, and I wish I could have stayed and traveled around that continent basically. But unfortunately I couldn't. I was stuck in Melbourne. So I got a small idea of Australia. And there was in Australia, in Melbourne, there was a museum of migration, like Australian immigration, kind of like an Ellis Island in America, New York. There was the Australian version, kind of sort of thing. But Australia had very controversial immigration policies. They had like a white only policy. They discouraged anybody else who wasn't white, Anglo-Saxon, Northern, Western European. And it's not just others like Africans or Asians that were barred, but even Italians or Eastern Europeans. But of course that changed. But this is a classic study of Australia in the 60s. I think in the 60s that anti-immigration law, anti-non-white immigration law was still enforced. Although I think in the 60s when they removed it and then they started allowing immigrants from all over the world to come. But again, this is a snapshot of a country in the 60s, before there was major changes to the society. Again, I think in the 60s Australia was probably overwhelmingly 90-something% white. One of the pages, this is the book. It's like the Libra stamp. Okay, I think that's okay. That's not a problem. So the book isn't falling apart. It's actually, for its age, in decent condition. This is originally published in 1964, and this edition is 1977. So another old book. Next one, this is a well-known historian, Niall Ferguson. I didn't know where to put this, so I put this under miscellaneous. It's The Ascent of Money. And the subtitle is A Financial History of the World. Niall Ferguson, more right-wing as an author. He wrote, I think his most controversial book was called Empire, in which he defends the British Empire as a force for good. But his other books, again, in interviews, etc., he's more right-wing. I don't know where he is now with Trump, because Trump changed all the calculations. When I say right-wing, I kind of sort of mean like neocon. But neocon doesn't really exist now. Now it's MAGA, so I really don't know. And then speaking of conservative America, this is a book by an author also well-known travel writer. I've got a lot of his books. I had no idea he wrote this book. It's Paul Thoreau. This is Deep South. And I guess this is the Deep South of the United States. Uh, on road trips spanning 4 seasons, wending along rural highway, Paul Thoreau travels to America's Deep South to uncover the truth behind the myths, the fiction, and the lies. He visits gun shows and small town churches, laborers in Arkansas and parts of Mississippi where they still call the farm up the road the plantation. He talks to mayors and social workers, writers and reverends, the working poor and farming families, the unsung heroes of the South, from those who never left to those who returned home to rebuild a place they could never live without. Uh, they still call it plantations in Mississippi. When is this book from? 2015. Okay. All right. Well, again, so travel writing of a well-known travel writer. Have his other books. There, some of them are listed here: The Ghost Train, The Dark Star Safari, Ghost Train to the Eastern Star. What else did he write? The Great Railway Bazaar. Um, yeah. So travel writing. Um, Next, where do we go? I want to just do this so that it flows a little bit. These we can keep. Okay, we'll do these next two because they're sort of kind of related. The first one is by Shoshana Zuboff, and it's The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. Oops, it was a a bookmark that fell out of there. The Fight for a Human Future at the New Frontier of Power. And this book comes really well recommended. I think Steve Donahue, the book critic, he's on BookTube. You'll find him. I'm sure you all know him. He really sang the song's praises at the time. I think this is from 20. It's not too old, but 2019. Yeah, I think just during the COVID pandemic. I finally found a copy now used, so I had to wait to read it. 2019 is probably already outdated now, but I'll still read it. And then related, I found this book. There was a discount. This wasn't from a used bookshop. It was from a new bookshop that had a discount. Again, if you watch part one, I sort of discussed it. But the books in this discount, this new bookstore discount section was mostly like self-help books, that sort of thing. And I found this book and the next one there. This one is called Don't Knock the Hustle. And it's by S. Craig Watkins. The subtitle is Young Creatives, Tech, Ingenuity, and the Making of a New Innovation Economy. So I think this just talks about like millennials, but probably more like Gen Z and how they are changing the economy. The things like YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, that kind of stuff. This is from 2019, so probably also dated, but I found it interesting. I just wanted to see what they mean by change and the making of a new innovation economy, what they meant by that. Again, I'm just remembering flipping through the pages. I think the author sort of focuses, I think the author is African American, and this book, or he or she had a book, and some of the stories here is sort of focusing on African American young creatives. If I'm not mistaken, because I saw something here about I could be mistaken. I remember something about focusing on African Americans, but maybe I'm just remembering things. Anyway, the next one is also sort of like kind of self-help, but this one I found interesting because it uses collapse of empires to predict collapse in businesses or economy. Anyway, it's called the 5 Stages of Collapse. Survivor's Toolkit, and the author is Dmitry Orlov. Quickly, I'll read the back. It says, when thinking about political paralysis, looming resource shortages, and the rapidly changing climate. Many of us can do no better than imagine a future that is less of the same. But it is during such periods of profound disruption that sweeping cultural change becomes inevitable. In Five Stages of Collapse, Dmitry Orlov posits a taxonomy of collapse, suggesting that if, in the first three stages, financial, commercial, and political, are met with the appropriate personnel and social transformations, then the worst consequences of social and cultural collapse can be avoided. Drawing on detailed examination of both pre and post collapse societies, the Five Stages of Collapse provides a unique perspective on typical characteristics of highly resilient communities. So, how to avoid collapse, basically, and using historical examples. It says here focusing on the Icelanders, the Russian mafia, the Pashtuns of Central Asia, the Roma of nowhere in particular, and the Ik of East Africa. So I found that interesting. I said I'll pick it up. It's really cheap. These are from the discount sale at the new bookstore. This book again on the theme of, let's say, new media and that sort of thing. This is called Zucked by Roger McNamee. The subtitle is Waking Up to the Facebook Catastrophe. So now I've actually got a bunch of Facebook books. I think I have 3 or 4, so I can do a reading project out of Facebook books. I think I have like 2 books that says Facebook is really good, and then there's 2 books like this one which gives a bit of a negative, that Facebook is a negative. You can see the dislike, and it's crushing the world, and it's catastrophic. But that's all I know just from judging the cover. I'll need to read it to know more about it. But again, I can do a Facebook reading project. I think the founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, is about my age. I think he's born the year I'm born. So, and I think I discovered Facebook when it was just slowly. It started as just for university students, and at the time I was 18, 19. So social media has dogged my entire adult life. Also, again, I think related, I really don't know what this is about, but that's what intrigues me about it. Again, it's from that self-help sort of discount bin, but it's called Culture Matic, and it's by Grant McCracken. And this subtitle here says How Reality TV, John Cheever, A Pie Lab, Julia Child, Fantasy Football, Burning Man, the Ford Fiesta Movement, Rube Goldberg, NFL Films, Wordle, Two and a Half Men, A 10,000 Year Symphony, and ROFLCon memes will help you create and execute breakthrough ideas. Again, sounds a bit self-helpy, but I don't know, I just found it a bit... I found it interesting, and that it helped you execute breakthrough ideas, cultural breakthrough ideas. That sounded interesting. Like that's kind of in my wheelhouse, if you will, my wheelhouse of interest. So again, very cheap, so I took it. Next, we can move into regulars of my channel will know that I had a bunch of books in my library that I call celebrity. They were mostly celebrity biographies, musicians, actors, mostly musicians and actors. And I've been wanting to get rid of these celebrity biographies. I really don't need them in my library, so I said I'll read them. If any of them are so good that I'd keep them, I would keep them. But I read them, and none of them are worthy of keeping, so I've slowly flushed them out of my library. Read them, but flushed them out of my library. Got rid of them, unhauled them. So I said, this genre of celebrity, especially music and film star biographies, is really not for me. I'm just not enjoying them. I don't need them. And so I said, I pledged to myself that I would stop purchasing them. But I found one of my commenters had recommended to me that you find the because I read a lot of like not a lot, but I read a Rolling Stone biography, and I read a Paul McCartney Beatle biography, Keith Richards, I think is his name. Rolling Stone biography and the Paul McCartney Beatles biography. And one of my commenters recommended that I find the biography of Eric Clapton. He said that one was, and it sounded interesting. So that was one uh, I would make an exception and probably get. But I didn't find that, but I haven't found that biography, none in the bookstores here. But I found this one, and I again, the Rolling Stones are before my time, the Beatles are before my time. I thought, okay, maybe if I find a band that is more my time, that I'll find it more interesting. So I'm going to give this a chance. It's an autobiography of Anthony Kiedis, and it's Scar Tissue. Of course, it's co-written. They all are with Larry Sloman. And I think Anthony Kiedis is the. I don't think he is. If you don't know, the lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers. So Red Hot Chili Peppers are very late '80s, early '90s, and they're still relevant into the 2000s. They had some more recent albums like the Californication album, which were, I think, early 2000s. So again, I shouldn't pick this up. I shouldn't have, but it was really cheap. And again, it's more my generation, something that I remember in my growing up. So maybe I'll find this interesting. We'll see. We'll see. I'll try to be an optimist. And then sticking to the theme of celebrity biographies, this one is a little bit different. I'm a little bit read a bit too many celebrity biographies. Maybe, yeah, too much. One too many. So I thought maybe I'll try something different. This is a work of fiction. This is called The Edge by Jamie Collinson. And it says, there is a subtitle to it. It says, "How do you stay high when endless gratification no longer works?" So this is, it's a work of fiction about, let me read it. It says, when your life is on the brink, when life on the brink is all you know, ... substance-fueled partying, endless women, and a slew of smash records are music hotshot Adam Fairhead's lifeblood. But when an avoidable accident occurs under his drug-addled watch, he is forced to reevaluate the life he has created. Increasingly delusioned with what once seemed so pulsatingly cool, Adam begins to question everything. Okay, and that's the author, young author, Jamie Collinson. So yeah, work of fiction about a rock star whose life changes and his priorities change. So very similar to the biographies I read, but this is a fictionalized account. We'll see. We'll see if it's any good. And then sticking again to the celebrity biographies. Actually, now I can also make a reading project out of this because I've got two other. These are director biographies. Movie directors. This one is called Chasing the Light. It's by Oliver Stone. I guess it's his autobiography. Is there a ghostwriter, like a co-writer or a ghostwriter? No, it seems he wrote it himself. I don't see any co-writer or ghostwriter. So again, really cheap. So I took it. Oliver Stone. I've got George Lucas, and I've got I want to say, is it Francis Ford Coppola? It's George Lucas, definitely. I think Francis Ford Coppola, and now I have Oliver Stone as well. So that's nice. 3 director biographies. I'll read them, make a reading project out of them someday. And who knows? Maybe directors will be more interesting than drug-addled musicians, rock stars, or just egotistical movie stars. Anyway, this video has gone half an hour, so I'm gonna wrap this up with the last 3 books, but they're related. So I have my nephew, my sister's. She has 2 sons, and they're 7 and 9. So I don't have children of my own, but my nephews I play with all the time when they come over, and they keep me young. And one of my nephews, the younger one, is very into his. He's very into He's very. I mean, they're kids. They're young boys, so they're into stuff that reminds me of when I was a young little child, little boy. So this is what influenced me to get these books because it reminded me of my childhood. These books are very important, a very important font of Western civilization, crucial to Western civilization. These are wrestling biographies. This is Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Uh, this is a New York Times bestseller. Okay, it's ghostwritten with Michael Jan Friedman. Uh, there is, I think he recently passed away, Hulk Hogan, if I'm not mistaken. But again, reminds me of my childhood. My nephews are very into their wrestling, their WWE. Uh, and that reminded me when I was young, I was also into the wrestling. It was, I think in the 90s, it really peaked. The next one I have is by Bret the Hitman Hart. That's his biography. Another famous wrestler in the 90s. There he is. I think a Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. But again, both of these books are like almost like new, untouched. They're older books, I'm sure, but they're almost new. And then the third one, this is Mankind, another very controversial wrestler. The book is called Have a Nice Day, A Tale of Blood and Sweat Socks. It's by Mick Foley. I think Mankind is Mick Foley. Maybe there's a like a co-writer or ghostwriter. It doesn't show here, but yeah, Mankind was a little bit eccentric and famous for from over the top stunts. That includes a lot of self-inflicted pain. So yeah, those three were influenced by my nephews. Those three are my nephew's fault. I saw them in the book hall. A little nostalgia for my childhood. Uh, so I said I'd grab them. But anyway, BookTube, we're finally at the end of this book haul. Thank you so much if you watched all 5 parts. I know some of you have because you've commented almost in every single one. And I'm surprised the view counts for them are actually quite healthy. I thought that nobody would watch them. I thought if I'm lucky I'd get 5 or 6. But no, there's been some traction. So I guess you guys are enjoying them. Thank you again for being in my channel. It was very pleasurable for me to make these book haul videos. I know they've gone very long. I'm going to try in the future to make them shorter or to make smaller book hauls. Maybe buy 1 or 2 books more often rather than waiting a long time and collecting a big stack of books. But anyway, BookTube, we'll see how that goes. But until then, I'm gonna wish you a good day, a good morning, a good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this, and say salute.